To 1738. I'm going to review this. I've had a cursory review with Carolyn. This did not come to our office, and as the office responsible for pay, we have some concerns in terms of the verbiage in the ordinance. So what I'll do is I'll put together some recommended changes so that should it pass in its present or very similar to its present form, that we can handle it properly from the position of paymaster.
Any other old business? New business?
Oh.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor.
Relative to ordinance number 2017-38, in trying to respond to Councilman Wobser's request, I think around 7 years ago when I first started to ask for the support of this community to fill this position, I was very transparent about what I wanted to try and accomplish, and it was very simple. First was flood mitigation, some significant progress in flood mitigation, and of course today's news of the Conservancy District saying to move forward with the project in the river in downtown Findlay, which will give us almost a foot of benefit, if not more, in flood relief, is a big win, I think, for this community overall. Second of all, I talked heavily about having best-in-class economic development opportunities for us, creating jobs, which produces revenue, which gives us the resources that we need in order to provide services to this community. And I think now, this year, for the third year in a row, having the #1 micropolitan community being Findlay, Ohio, is a testament to the collaboration and the team effort that we've put forth, in conjunction with our private sector partners in Findlay. And third, something that I've been very passionate about is improving the way we deliver public service. And we have come a very long way in that particular mission. We have spent a significant amount of time planning for and executing historic reinvestment in terms of our infrastructure in this community. We are a very financially responsible and healthy community, due in part to your guidance as we have presented you with options along the way. And I dare say that we're also a very progressive community as well, and one that has been thinking outside the box in order to stretch our resources to the point that we can be effective and efficient. We've spent a lot of time over the last 5 years focused heavily in the service side of things, trying to make sure that our labor forces and our facility management techniques use those resources that are available to us to the best of our capabilities. And while we have made some significant strides relative to contract negotiations in the safety side, replacing equipment, doing things to ensure that we have the best and the brightest in those positions that we rely on the most, we still have a lot of room for improvement. Planning the proper size of those departments that we've been focusing now with those employees for some time, just making sure that strategically they're where they need to be, ensuring that we're spending the right amount of money given the size of our community in those particular departments, taking care of things like we heard last night relative to cancer prevention. There's still a lot of focus that could be made on the safety side of the house. And so that's really, what we're trying to do with this ordinance. I think we've made a lot of progress, but really it's basically just redistributing duties amongst the personnel that we have that's existing. I am very confident in Mr. Thomas's ability to manage not only the city engineer's position, but also the director of public service. I think he will do a splendid job in that position. Of course, we all know that Paul did, an amazing job in all three of those positions for, almost the first 4 years of our existence here. And then having Paul be able to focus primarily on the safety side, I think is going to be a good move for us. So I would hope that you will ask your questions if you have them, but support the administration. And I'm excited about the opportunity. We've done a lot given our particular arrangement and the way that we've had it to date, but I'm really excited about what the future holds for us over the next 2 3/4 years, because I'm excited about the way that we're setting things up. So that hopefully that helps. explain some things for you.
Mr. Russell.
Are we into new business?
Oh, I thought you wanted. Yeah, oh, no.
Grant's ready to go to bed.
We're still under old business.
Yeah.
Holly?
Since we've done first reading on this ordinance and we've gotten a lot of explanation from the mayor, I think there's a lot of questions out in the community still that need some answers. One of them is what will the new salaries be, and are we going to eliminate the engineer, a separate engineer altogether? Brian's gonna take on both permanently, or is that a temporary?
So really at this point, what we will have is Brian as the Director of Public Service, and he will be acting city engineer. And in terms of salaries, we're looking for a small increase within what we're allowed to do for Brian to assume those additional duties throughout the end of the year, reevaluate at the end of the year to see if that's working. I'm sure it will. And then come back to you potentially for an increase in that particular position for the budget in 2018. In terms of the Director of Public Service, we're looking, you're becoming basically one job, so we're looking at cutting the existing Safety Service Director position in half.
Okay, so, and then we're still gonna look for an engineer potentially, or you're saying Brian's gonna up his salary and take on the 70-hour work week?
So the plan at this point is we're looking at making some moves in the engineering department, potentially adding additional staff in terms of project management. Jeremy Kalb has been a great addition to Brian in that office, and we've been churning out projects, as you're seeing, for us to be able to get done what we know we need to get to do. We could be looking at additional staff to help support both Brian and Jeremy. Of course, Jeremy is growing within the position that he has right now, and is looking at evolving professionally as well, with a desire at some point to increase his capacity within the department. So we could potentially have two professional engineers in that particular department. So we're looking at ways that we can be most efficient, and really what we would like to see is just evaluate what we have. And figure out where the gaps are, if they do exist, and then come back and talk to you about potentially filling them in the future.
Okay, and then Paul, just to clarify for the public as well, you're going to be full-time still?
Correct.
And will you be working outside of the city position?
Possibly.
And would that be any conflict there?
No.
And when you came on as Safety Service Director, you resigned from your position in the private sector. Was that voluntary, or was that a requirement for you to take the position at that time?
The ownership of an engineering company would have caused the corporation that I was a partner in to not be able to do business with the city of Findlay. So I gave them the option at the time to exercise a purchase of my share of the company or not do business in the city of Findlay.
Okay, so you're going to do 40 hours between 9 and 5, and then your outside work.
I'll do whatever it takes. I've done that over the last
you've
6
done a lot
years.
for the community, like Lydia echoed. So those are just a couple questions that I have had, and I appreciate it.
Any other old business? Tim?
I have a question. So do we have an idea or an estimate of kind of a net cost increase, or are we talking about it's going to stay kind of neutral?
It's actually going to be a decrease in our costs.
Okay.
So
For this year and next year?
for this year and presumably next year as well.
Great. Thanks.
Any other old business?
I just got a question just for clarification. When does this take effect?
The split of the position will take place whenever council approves the ordinance.
Mr. Wolfser?
Sorry, excuse me. The creation of the Director of Public Service and Director of Public Safety will take place once council has approved the ordinance.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Mayor, not to delay this meeting any longer, but there's two other.
4:45 is going to come really early tomorrow.
That may be passed already, but there's two other sections to this. At our next meeting, would you address those also?
I could do it really quickly
really-
for you right now. The Public Works Department would like to have the creation of a foreman's position 1, 2, and 3, so they have more flexibility in who they hire and what their starting wages. So that's the creation of those. And the third piece is allowing the transfer of vacation pay from another city and or local government entity to the city of Findlay to be up to the administration's discretion. Right now, currently, it is up to the discretion of the employee that's coming on board. That could potentially cause us a future financial liability. And so I think it is prudent for the administration at the time to have the ability to decide whether or not they're worth that particular investment or not.
If I could, state law does not require us to transfer their time or pay them out. Their current employer should be paying them out. But the council decided that they would enact some legislation if there was a good candidate to attract, to allow him to or her to bring their time with them. But what the ordinance actually did was say the employee gets to decide if he or she is going to bring their time. So that's what happened. And so we got some bad, and some of that information was discussed with Don, and so I think we had at least one employee get time when they shouldn't have. So we closed that loophole. That would be, if it's going to be something to entice a good candidate, it's going to be our decision, not theirs.
In that case, and that makes sense, Mayor and Don, would it make more sense then for that to go to council versus being the mayor's discretion? If we had a candidate?
I have something to add there, because that's going to be one of our comments, not necessarily council, but the hiring authority, because not every part of the city reports to the mayor, and it says specifically the mayor here. You know, we've got courts, we've got civil service, we've got my office. In the past, we had the health department. It should say the hiring authority, or council could choose for it to be council, but there needs to be some discussion around that point.
The
last thing I
majority of our
had-
employees report to the mayor.
I'm sorry?
The majority of the city employees report directly through the mayor.
Understood. My last comment is, if we vote this down, does that make Paul by law stay in his current job?
I expected you to debate this for about 6 months.
Yeah.
Any other old business? New business?